What's up, Sports Wars? I'm here with Cricket from sportspicks.locals.com, and we are going to go over yesterday's championship games for the NFL and a little bit of a way too early preview for the Super Bowl. But before we get started, how you doing, Cricket, man?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. The gridiron was not too kind to me yesterday from a betting standpoint, man. I was on the opposite side of a lot of that, but a couple good games, man. We got a big time matchup coming to the Super Bowl. We're gonna try to figure out how to maybe bet this thing a little bit.
Yes, sir. Hey, and I played my first underdog picks yesterday. I put together a little 4-leg parlay, and it wasn't too kind for me either, man. I had Brock Purdy on the under rushing yards, 7.5 rushing yards, and the full ran for like plus 50. He almost had 60 rushing yards, something like that. What did he finish with? He had himself a day. Let's see how many rushing yards he had. He finished with 48.
That's crazy.
48 yards, man.
Yards that he had all year long, bro. All year long. He made some big plays with his legs right there. They said that's what he's going to have to do. I mean, he really gritty performance by him. They were down 24-7 at the half, and that thing, the Lions really came out, smacked him in the mouth. But they rose back up after the halftime. I don't know what was said by Shanahan at halftime or what they had in the water in there, but them boys came out a little pissed off in that second half. And you really saw the momentum change, man. You really did. They kind of set the tone early, had to settle for the field goal, but then they got the stop and the touchdown, and then you saw Detroit fumble, and it was all over then, man. You felt that momentum shift. That place got to rocking, and Purdy played well in the second half. Not so much in the first half, but with his legs, that was the surprise, man, that he was able to get that many rushing yards.
Yeah, man, in the Lions, they came out, like you said, they punched the Niners in the mouth in the first half, and personally, I felt, watching that second half, it felt like the Lions were playing a little bit of passive. They were playing very passive. Like, it almost kind of reminded me of when the Falcons in the Super Bowl a few years ago against the Patriots, they thought they had the game won. They didn't want to make any mistakes. They weren't trying to throw the ball too much. They just wanted to run out the clock and, maybe score some on the ground, but man, the Niners stopped that rushing game in the second half, and then, that the game plan, whatever the Lions had going into the second half, it just wasn't working. They played very passive.
I agree, man, and that's kind of a surprise for me coming from a guy like Dan Campbell, who's always ultra aggressive right there, but I do feel like they played more not to lose in the second half rather than playing to win right there.
Yes.
It's had some questionable coaching decisions by Dan Campbell, but that guy lives and dies by the sword. He's been one of those aggressive guys going for it on fourth down all year long. I just thought that if you were going to go for it in one of those fourth down spots right there, you did it later in the game, wound up biting them. But I thought you should go for it right there before halftime, man. Go ahead and try to punch it in. You're already up 2 touchdowns. Go ahead and try to break their back. Put it in right there at the end zone at the end and be able to be up 3 scores. There's a big difference between 28-7 and 24-7. And so I thought if you're going to pick a spot to go for it right there, I thought it should have been before halftime rather than later when you could have put the points on and really kept the pressure on them right there.
At the very end of the game, man, when the Lions were down there at the goal line, they had just over a minute left to go with all their timeouts left. And I'm thinking, you kick the field goal right here. This is where you kick the field goal and you try to score the touchdown later. And then they had like 3 attempts. They wasted about 10, 15 seconds. They did wind up getting that touchdown on fourth down. But I'm like, man, you wasted all that time trying to get this touchdown where you could have just kicked the field goal and then go for the onside kick, which they almost got, man. They almost got that onside kick. I mean, they did touch the ball early. Kittle, he snagged the ball and he sat on it. 49ers got the ball. But, man, when the Lions were down there in the red zone at the goal line, I'm like, you kick the field goal right now. You kick the field goal right now. You save those 15, 20 seconds that you had left on the clock, and you live to fight another day. Hopefully you get the onside kick, and then that's when you score the touchdown. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I was really surprised to see him not go ahead and take the points right there in the spot where you're already down 2 scores, just over a minute left. You got to get the onside kick. I guess he figured he had a better shot right there at scoring from the 1-yard line or whatever rather than trying to throw a Hail Mary if you do get the onside. There's a lot of ifs in that sentence and all that. I mean, a lot of things could have went their way. The thing is, they should have never had to been in that spot, man. You talk about them being very passive in the second half. And you didn't see that aggression. You didn't see that gritty mentality. They did fight till the end, and I like those guys. I don't think they got the right thing going for them, but you did see some questionable calls by Dan Campbell right there, and I'm sure he strikes me as the type guy. He did in his playing career, but he strikes me as the type guy that'll learn from things like this and be able to use it for good in the future right there. It was a great season for Detroit, but, man, they got to feel like they let one slip away right here.
Well, and you heard Dan Campbell after the game. He told his boys, he told the locker room, this might have been our only shot at getting here to the NFC Championship. And he told the media that. He said, hey, listen, I told my guys, this might have been our only shot, and we know how hard it is to get to the NFC Championship, especially the Lions, man. They had everything going against them. Like, the Lions just have, obviously, not a great history of making the playoffs at all. They find their way to the NFC Championship. They had a huge lead, and I don't think going into the second half, that's not the time to, ease up off of the gas. I think you keep doing what was working in the first half, but they just played very passive, and it reminded me of the Falcons in the Super Bowl a few years ago.
Yeah, I agree with you right there, man. And there's a couple things didn't go their way. You had the fumble right there, and it just kind of felt like it was slipping away for them. It was more of a surprise for me the way they came out in that first half. I felt like they played with that nothing to lose mentality right there in the first half. Really came back out, were not intimidated at all by who's been one of the Super Bowl favorites all year long. They weren't intimidated in the slightest, and really in the second half, they were just trying to limp to the end of that thing right there. And you did see a lot of questionable spots where I thought you could have been a little bit more aggressive, where I expected them to be more aggressive, and they kind of just took their foot off the gas and they came back to bite them.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a few key drops too. I believe it was number 8 on the Lions. I'm not sure if it was
Josh Reynolds.
Yep, Josh Reynolds, man. Josh Reynolds had some key severe drops that ended a lot of these Lions drives where they were trying to, go back to their first half mentality of being aggressive. And you saw Goff targeting Reynolds, and he had like 2 drops in the second half that just completely just killed the momentum.
He did have a couple key drops. I don't want to throw too much shade at this guy because I feel like Josh Reynolds has had a pretty solid season as about a not even a second, really a third team wide receiver right there that's really stepped up, though, and made some big plays for this team throughout the course of the season. And I think Dan Campbell and those guys will be the first to tell you that they probably wouldn't be here without Josh Reynolds. I mean, he made some key catches in some games early on.
Yeah.
It sucks for him in that big spot right there to drop those. You talked about Dan Campbell in that press conference afterwards and what he said to his guys. Part of me has an issue with that, and part of me totally understands it because he's a guy that's been a player. He's played in these top games. He knows how hard it is to get back to that game year in and year out. Because I think like the NFL, man, everybody's professionals, everybody's good, and you can lose to anybody on any given day. So it is tough to get back to that spot. But to me, that interview felt a little weird. It felt like a guy that really it almost had Brandon Staley vibes for me, man, because I was just seeing a guy that had done nothing but exude confidence all year long. And he looked a little shook after that thing, man.
Felt
like he knew
defeated.
that he had missed.
Defeated.
Yeah. He did, man. And so I kind of, I don't know. I hope that the message to his players was received the right way, but that could got to be a slippery slope there if you're Dan Campbell.
Yeah, I mean, especially because this Lions team, I felt like they're built right now to be successful for the next couple of seasons here. And that's not really the message that you want to hear from your head coach, who is very aggressive. He's a football guy. He used to play for the Lions. And that's not really the message that you want to give your team going forward when they're built to win for the next 2 or 3 years probably. And to tell them after that, hey, guys, this might have been our only chance of getting here. That's not really the confidence boost or the kind of mentality that you're used to hearing from Dan Campbell.
And I think what he's trying to do there is maybe kind of motivate these guys to go in and put the work in the offseason to be able to come back next year ready to go. Don't get complacent by just making the NFC Championship because you haven't done anything yet. You haven't got the ring. You haven't even won an NFC Championship. You haven't been to a Super Bowl. You did some things that hadn't been done in the franchise's history or haven't been done in however many years. That's great. But, it's easy to get complacent in these spots. And I think that was more of his message. I don't think it was received that way by maybe his players or the media, but I think it was more to try to motivate them to work in the offseason to get back to this spot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it started off, man. It looked like this was the Lions game to lose. And, man, they fumbled, man. They fumbled the bag. Into the earlier game, the one that we started talking about first, is Chiefs at Baltimore. This was the one where I felt like this was going to be the hyper-competitive, sort of high-scoring game. You're going to see Lamar Jackson really just kind of take control of the game, and that wasn't the case. I mean, there's a lot of guys. I mean, we saw Stephen A. Smith this morning saying this was a major choke from the Baltimore Ravens, and more specifically Lamar Jackson, that they choked this game away. Zay Flowers, that crucial taunting penalty in the first half, and then he was about to score a touchdown, fumbled on the 1 yard line, and it seemed like it was all downhill from there for the Ravens.
Man, it was this one surprised me a lot. I expected a lot more out of the Ravens. I think the Chiefs had kind of I don't know if you've seen some of those scuffles before the game and stuff. You got Justin Tucker down there kicking field goals during their warm-ups. You got Kelsey tossing his helmet.
Dude, that pissed me off. That pissed me off, and I'll tell you why. They're in Baltimore. Baltimore, the Ravens have their pregame warm-ups, how they have done it for probably forever. Justin Tucker, it feels like he's been with the Ravens for 100 years now. He knows exactly what he wants to do. He wants to kick on both sides of the field. It was a little bit windy yesterday, harsh conditions, raining. He's just trying to go down there, and you know what? They're in fucking Baltimore. This is his house. Justin Tucker has been the guy. He's like the highest, he's one of the highest scorers for the Ravens for the past several years. I mean, I know he's a kicker, but the dude puts up points. He puts them. He gives them points. He puts up points, and he keeps these guys in games sometimes. And he's had several game winners. When there's no time left on the clock in the fourth quarter, dude will nail a 50-yard field goal. This is his house. He wants to go down there on that side of the field where the Chiefs are warming up, and you see Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce grabbing his helmet, throwing his helmet, grabbing the balls that he plans on kicking. He just tossing the balls away, grabbing the kicking stand, tossing the kicking stand. Dude, the arrogance, man, that really fucking pissed me off when Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce did that, man. What do you think?
Man, I kind of see both sides of it, but here's the thing. In the NFL, in a game like this, with all that's on the line, a lot of these guys in this game, this is the biggest game. Now, not Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes or Justin Tucker, for that matter.
Right.
They've all played in bigger games than this, but the majority of guys out there, this is the biggest game they played in their life. There's a lot of emotion that goes into this. And when you start stepping on guys' routines and things like that, I understand it's your home stadium and all that. I don't know why the NFL allows this to happen, for one. In every football game I ever played in my whole life all the way up, I didn't play the NFL, but it was like every game I ever played in, man, you had a dividing line at the 50-yard line.
Correct.
And you couldn't go past that. Yep. So, I didn't even think this should be kind of a problem here. And you got guys like Mahomes, and they got to come out, they got to do their warm-ups and things too. And you got certain areas of the field. The field's only so big that you can, and if you do have kicking stands and helmets and balls laying there at your star quarterback's feet, who's to say he doesn't step on one of those and roll an ankle while he's trying to do his drills and all that? I just think it's kind of got blown out of proportion. Yeah. And I think it's one of those things where the NFL's got to step in and be like, look, this is your side. This is your side. We're not going to start this shit at the beginning. Get this thing. Because I think the Chiefs totally let that play into their game plan because they got Baltimore out of sync way early on, man. You had all these guys. You've seen Roquan, Patrick Queen. I mean, all kinds of guys out there just talking smack, not really focused on their assignments, not really focused on what they're supposed to be doing, way more interested in the personal battles they're having with guys play in and play out right there and talking that smack. And it really kind of took away from what they were trying to do. And it took away from their focus.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that Tucker went down there and he was trying to get in their heads a little bit. He was trying to piss them off a little bit.
Little gamesmanship.
Yeah, a little gamesmanship, just trying to get in their head a little bit. Hey, I'm going to kick these field goals right here while you guys are warming up. What are you guys going to do about it? What's going to be your response to that? And they were not fucking happy, man. And the kickers, no. They have every opportunity when the Chiefs are, in the locker room before the game. The kickers can go out before the rest of the team, and if they want to, with a completely empty field, kick the field goals, do some warm-up kicks before the opposing team, the Chiefs, go out there. They have all the time to do that, but Justin Tucker went out there while the Chiefs were doing their little warm-ups and tried to get in their head a little bit. But I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. It did backfire.
My thing is, why not go down on your end and do that around your quarterback and all that stuff with somebody that's not going to get pissed off? They might just tell you to slide out of the way. Well, and if, like you said, if you wanted to get those kicks in on that end of the field, go out there an hour earlier, man.
Yeah.
Go out there and do your thing. Get it. Don't, because Justin Tucker don't need to be thinking about these things either. And maybe he is trying to get in their head and all that. But if you're doing that, I think that's kind of chicken shit, in my opinion. Like, just play the game, man. I feel like it could have been prevented by just having a dividing line at the 50 and saying, this is your side, that's your side. We'll play here in a minute. And then y'all can hit each other all you want.
Yeah. But this game, like I said, this had the feeling and the make of being a hyper-competitive, high-scoring game where you feel like Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, the game is in their hands. I really felt like Lamar Jackson, this as his gameplay, if he played a great, perfect game, this was Ravens all day. And actually, that's kind of the way it went because Lamar Jackson, he didn't have too great of a game. Yeah, he had 272 passing yards, 54 rushing yards. He went under on his projected rushing yards as far as Underdog goes. But dude, second half, it was damn near a nothing burger. I mean, 3 points in the second half. Baltimore kicked the field goal in the fourth quarter, but both teams struggled kind of in the second half, right?
Yeah, and you know, I think the weather, it rained a little bit harder than we expected it to. It was supposed to. We knew it was going to rain. We didn't think it was going to be like a driving type rain. I feel like toward the second half, it kind of got that way. This has been two of the best defenses in the league all year long. So it's not just easy to go put points up right here. We scored 3 touchdowns in the first quarter in 5 minutes or so. It looked like it was going to soar over in this thing, and then they just halted. Nobody did anything the rest of the way, really. And then part of that was due to the defense and the schemes and things like that. But Baltimore making mistakes, man, turning the ball over 3 times. You've got 2 different fumbles, one by Lamar, which is sack strip, which it happens. Then you got the fumble by Zay. Right there after, I mean, I think you said earlier it was in the first half, but he actually on that same drive that he fumbled was the same drive he got him way down there and then got the taunting penalty.
They got the taunting.
You gotta know, but he's a young guy. And that one I can even live with. I can even get past that one because it doesn't kill you because you still got a first down around the red zone area and things. You still wind up being about a 45, 50-yard play. But I still don't, you gotta cut that shit out, man. Too big a moment. Too big a moment. It's been a chippy game. They've already thrown some cheechy penalties as far as personal fouls, in my opinion. That one on Banoy early in the game where he just kind of bumped into Kelsey, where Kelsey and I can't remember his queen or Roquan had been jawing all, and then Banoy just kind of bumped it. He just footballed him, man. He leaned in, tapped him a little bit, and was like, "Hey, I'll be here all day too. We're coming back to this." You got to let that go, man.
You got to let the guys play, man. You got to let the guys play.
Because that extended that drive right before halftime. They wound up getting the 3 points, was a very critical 3 points in this game. Well, it was a close game all day long. So, I mean, I think you got to let that stuff go. But Zay's got to know at that point that the refs are kind of on edge. And this has been one of the crews that threw the most flags all year long. That's been, documented in the media all week long. There's no way you don't know this crew. And so you got to be careful right there. But then, the fumble, you got to protect the football, man. You're down 2 scores in a playoff game where you got to have this. You got to know those situations. And he's a young guy. He's a great athlete. He's going to rebound from this. He's going to come back and be a player in the league. There's no doubt in my mind that's going to happen. Yep. But he's got to learn from these mistakes like this because you have to protect the football right there when you're down 2 scores at home because that right there changed the whole momentum of the game.
Absolutely.
The entire momentum of the game. The game was decided on that play right there.
Yep.
And he's got to know in the future. Then he goes over the sideline, smacking things around, cuts his hand. That can wind up hurting you. You wind up breaking your hand. You can't even go out there and try to help redeem yourself after that. Yep. So he's just got to mature a little bit. But I think the guy's going to be a player, and I think he's going to bounce back from this. But this has got to be a learning experience for him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I feel like in that position, you're in the AFC Championship against the defending Super Bowl champions. You got to minimize those mistakes, man. It's bigger than you. In that moment, it's bigger than you. You got to think about the team. You just made a big play. Now is not the time to taunt the defense and taunt literally the defending Super Bowl champions. This is not the time to do it because they will take everything and anything to use that as motivation. You were in the red zone. You get the taunting penalty that takes you out of the red zone. And then he had the opportunity to score a touchdown right there. And then he fumbled on the 1 yard line. Chiefs get the ball. And like you said, that was the game right there. That changed the entire momentum of the game. And it was kind of Kansas City for the rest of it.
And the most concerning thing for me, just kind of to end Zay Flowers here, is the most concerning thing for me was kind of, and I don't know, I wasn't on the sideline, but the reactions I could tell, just kind of reading his body language and stuff, there was a lot of veteran guys that were trying to coach him up, trying to talk to him, trying to use it as a teaching moment. And I don't feel like he was very responsive to that. And maybe that's the heat of the moment. You're probably amped up, a lot of emotion there. But I think this guy, he's got to learn. He's probably always been one of the better athletes on the field, every field he's ever played on.
Yeah.
He's got to learn to be coachable, man. And you got to take those moments right there and listen to those guys that have been in these spots before and made some of these same mistakes and how they rebounded from. You got to learn those things, man, without having to do it the hard way.
Yep. Unfortunate. It feels like, the Ravens, whether it was a choke job or not, definitely kind of fell flat the entire game. Putting up just 10 points in an AFC Championship game, a very low-scoring game. Yeah, the weather wasn't great, but, man, they came out hot, kind of like the Lions did. They came out hot, and, just dumb mistakes. Dumb mistakes on the Ravens side with specifically Zay Flowers. But like you said, he's a gamer. He's a young guy, but now is not the time to be petty and to get a taunting penalty after you just made a huge play against the defending Super Bowl champions. That's not the place to do it. But he'll learn. Hopefully, the Baltimore Ravens, they're a young team. They got a lot of talent. They're well coached. Lamar Jackson under contract now, finally got paid. But man, it seemed like America needed the Ravens to win this game because we don't want to see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again, man. The Chiefs just a few years ago in 2018, they were like the new shining light of the NFL.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, he was like, man, we got this new guy. And now in 2023, 2024, and current year, it's like we love to hate him. We love to hate Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
What a difference 5 years makes, man. Because you're so right. A short 5-6 years ago, we were sitting here rooting for Andy Reid and all these guys. That's all we wanted to see, man, was them finally get one. And now it's like, damn, you root against them every game. I'll tell you what, that damn Swifty shit has a lot to do with it for me, man. Mm-hmm. That should drive me crazy. I wanted them to get beat just so I didn't have to spend the next 2 weeks listening to all that nonsense.
Yep, and that's what it's going to be, man. Just nothing but Taylor Swift. And now people are worried about Taylor Swift and, she's got a concert in Japan the day before the Super Bowl. Oh, well, she's got a private jet. She'll be able to make her way over to the Super Bowl. But all these Swifties are like, man, the environment. Oh, but good thing Taylor Swift has a private jet to, fly her ass out over to the Super Bowl after her concert in Japan. It's a fucking joke, man. But let's now that we got the results. I'm sorry, what was that, Cricket?
I said a bunch of hypocritical fucks, man.
Oh, yeah. Very hypocritical. But now, since we got the results yesterday, we are looking at a Super Bowl rematch from a few years ago. The 49ers, Kansas City Chiefs in Las Vegas. Opening up, we have the Niners are favored by 1.5 points. New quarterback. The last time these two teams met in the Super Bowl, Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback. Now we got Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, second year starting in the NFL last year. They looked like they could have went to the Super Bowl, should have went to the Super Bowl, but Brock Purdy, he hurt his elbow, had to get Tommy John surgery. The Eagles wind up going to the Super Bowl, barely losing just by a hairline pass interference call or holding call on Bradbury last year. The Chiefs win the Super Bowl, and now we have a rematch with the 49ers Chiefs, with a new quarterback in Purdy. What do we feel about these way too early odds and predictions for the Super Bowl, Cricket?
Well, this line's actually already done something funny for me. It opened up at 1. It was at 1 this morning when we were doing the morning show, and it's already crept up a half point. Tells me there's probably some money flowing in on the 49ers right there at -1. I thought this game last night, man, my girlfriend was asking me, what do you think the line's going to open up at? And I said, honestly, it should probably just be a pick 'em. You should probably just have to pick the side right here, make it -110 on both sides and be done with it. But you got the 49ers -1.5 right here, -120 on the money line, even money on the money line for the Chiefs with a total of 47.5. I think I'll monitor this thing throughout the next couple weeks and see. We'll get some different info and, different guys that are not going to play or not going to be on the roster. The different things will factor into this to make this line move some. Got to see where some of the big money comes in at. But right now, it's just hard for me to, after what I saw yesterday, I mean, that Ravens team to me had been the most dominant team in football all year long. Even the games they lost, they had a lot of opportunities to win those games in key spots. And, they really just let it slip away in those spots, kind of like they did yesterday. Maybe it was kind of some foreshadowing for what we were going to see. But I thought they had been the most dominant team, and the Chiefs just went out there and really handled business. It never felt like the Ravens had a chance to win that thing. It didn't to me. The closest thing it felt like they had a chance to in that thing at all was when Zay Flowers fumbled through the end zone.
Yep.
So, I don't – if the Chiefs come out like that, I mean, I've said it all year long as well. They are the champs till they ain't, because somebody's got to – you got to beat them. And 49ers, if they come out and start anything like they did yesterday against the Lions, they're going to find themselves in a hole that they can't climb out of, because this Chiefs defense is probably the best defense Patrick Mahomes has ever had. And if you find yourself in a 10-point, 14-point hole against this defense, you're not coming out of it, because you can't slow that offense down enough either.
Yeah. I mean, the Chiefs' Achilles heel, even with Patrick Mahomes early on in his career, was their defense. And then they bring in Steve Spagnuolo as their defensive coordinator, and he has completely turned that defense around, man. And like you said, this is the best defense that Patrick Mahomes has had on the Chiefs. But the 49ers, man, they are built, and we found out yesterday, they are built to come back. They're built to come back in games. That offense, I mean, there was no injuries as far as I saw yesterday. I mean, Samuel was great yesterday. Everybody was great. I did have Kittle with an anytime receiving touchdown. That didn't hit, unfortunately. I did have McCaffrey yesterday over on Underdog. McCaffrey for an anytime rushing touchdown, and then Brock Purdy with that with the seven and a half rushing yards, and I thought that was going to hit, man. I was like, oh, this is a lock, man. Brock Purdy ain't
It's a
rushing.
Lock, man. They always feel like a lock before kickoff, don't they?
Yep. But, man, I do feel like the 49ers are favored for a reason. I do feel like this is the 49ers game to lose going into the Super Bowl. To me, they're the more well-rounded team as far as defense and offense goes. The Chiefs, they still make some dumb drops on offense, man. They don't feel as polished as we are used to seeing this Chiefs offense, right?
Yeah, no, you're not wrong there, man. We did see him polish it up a little bit yesterday. MVS had that big catch at the end of the game to seal the deal right there. And what a call by Andy Reid right there. Who saw that coming, that you were going to go to that guy in that spot with seeing all the drops he had? This is a team with the highest drop rate all year long, 6.9% drop rate. I think dropped 44 balls going into this thing. So, they had definitely had a lot of opportunities to slip away from them. But yesterday, when it was time to show up, put up or shut up, they did what the Chiefs do, man. And I just think I'm going to have a hard time counting this team out. I will say for the 49ers, they're going to have to shore up that run defense, man. They have been gashed the last couple weeks by two NFC North teams with Aaron Jones in Green Bay.
Montgomery and Gibbs ran all over the Niners yesterday. All over them.
All over them, man. Dave Montgomery, I felt like he was gashing for 6 or 7 yards every time he touched the football. And Jahmyr Gibbs made plays with his, in the passing game and running the ball. They've got to shore up that inside running game a little bit, because if they don't, Isaiah Pacheco will have a field day against them.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and take a look at the Lions on the ground yesterday. Montgomery, 15 carries, 93 yards, a rushing TD. Gibbs, 12 carries, 45 yards. It felt like he had more than that.
It did, man.
For a rushing touchdown. And then Jameson Williams with 1 carry, 42 yards on that 1 carry, and a rushing TD. The Lions ran all over the Niners yesterday.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing we kind of forget. We saw the two running backs really have a day. We forget that 42-yard carry by Jameson Williams. It was a hell of a run by him, but they missed several tackles in that thing, where it's not like Jameson Williams is this big, beastly guy. He's a hell of an athlete. A world-class athlete, but he's not a big, bulky guy that's supposed to be able to run through you right there. And they missed some tackles. They've been a little unsure of themselves in certain spots. And I just think they've got to be able to shore that up, because if they don't, it's going to give Patrick Mahomes all kinds of time with play action. He's going to be able to become more comfortable, get in sync with the offense. And if they allow that dude to get in rhythm, man, he's tough to beat.
Yeah. It's got the makings to be a great game. A 1.5 point favorite. That's not a lot. It's on a neutral field, obviously a neutral site, but I feel like the 49ers are favored for a reason. What are your thoughts on the Niners being a favorite?
I think so, man. But a lot of people, I think, are looking at the way the Chiefs performed in some of the games earlier in the season. And this postseason Chiefs team is not anything like what we saw throughout the course of the regular season, where they were really making a lot of those mistakes that got them beat. Patrick Mahomes was making some bad throws, getting picked off.
Yeah.
You're not seeing that sort of thing from this Chiefs team. They're very sure tacklers on the defensive side of the ball. You don't get a lot of second chance opportunities right there, yards after catch. So right now, I know the 49ers are probably the more complete team on paper, but without a doubt they are. They've got more weapons on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. So to me, if you go on paper, it probably should be about a 3.5, 4 point spread right here.
Yeah.
But I think you see with the Chiefs and knowing the aura they have around them and the way they show up for big games. It's the Chiefs, man. Yeah. The way they show up for big games, it's just hard to count those guys out right there.
Yep. And then you wanted to look at some more numbers here. Oh, pull up your DraftKings right there. What are you looking at over here on DraftKings for this game?
We could just look at some of the different players. They won't have most of the player props up. It'll probably be another week or so before they get those up. They'll probably wait till both teams get out in Vegas. You have a more sure idea who's going to be playing in the game, try to set those numbers and things.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for those. Here you already got some of your anytime touchdowns up. We'll look at some of those when we get closer to that. But I want to look at some of these Super Bowl specials. You got to dive into some of these, because you can find some little gems in these things right here. Sometimes you're like, here, Nick Bosa to have 2+ sacks. Had 2+ sacks yesterday. You get that plus 350. Things like McCaffrey, 130 plus rushing receiving yards. Deebo Samuel, 95 plus receiving yards. So you can go all down here. There's all kinds of options. So make sure on your books, y'all, dive in there. check your Super Bowl options. Go look at some of these specials, man, because a lot of times I've had a lot of success on these things right here, and you'll find some of these, like, will an offensive lineman score a touchdown? I mean, we see those all the time in big games where you have the little tackle release and things like that out to the flat in the end zone. So be able to go look through these specials and see, because you will find some gems at some plus money right there. And there's all kinds of they actually do have some pass props already up. Here's individual player props. They got Purdy's number sitting at 243.5. Patrick Mahomes at 259.5. I feel like there's going to be, I mean, a total of 47.5. It feels like there's going to be a lot of points in this thing. I think I might like both of those guys over on that. We'll have to dive a little more into it, but Pacheco, 68.5. I mean, after what I've saw the 49ers give up against the running game the last 2 weeks, 68.5 feels like a low number for a guy like Isaiah Pacheco, who runs like he is angry at the ground. What are some guys you looking for this thing to have a big game, a big day, maybe an X factor or something?
I mean, you can't count out Ayuk, man. I mean, I know there's a lot of flashy names on that 49ers offense, Kittle, McCaffrey, and Debo, but Ayuk, man, he's kind of been that, you know, he's kind of been a little sneaky. He's been a little sneaky with Ayuk there. You know, a lot of distractions over there. You got to keep guys on Kittle because you never know. He can make a big play. McCaffrey can bust out a big run or just a small dump-off pass where he'll take for yards as well. And same thing with Debo. Debo plays very similar to McCaffrey. I know McCaffrey is really their kind of every down back, but Debo plays very similar. He's got a very similar game to McCaffrey. Those two guys, they're tough to defend, but I think Ayuk, he could be a little sneaky guy to have a big game, I think, for the Niners.
I love Brandon Ayuk, man. He has been really, from a yards per game perspective, he has been the top receiver in this offense all year long, averaging right around 84 yards per game in the regular season. And yesterday had the big catch on the tip ball from like a finger of God type play or something right there. That was a big time play in the third quarter there.
Yeah.
But beyond that, he was still kind of quiet to his standards of what we've seen out of him this year. I've liked this guy since he was a Arizona State Sun Devil back in the day, man. He kind of got in Shanahan's doghouse a little bit, had to work his way back out of that. But the last couple of years has been a very proven weapon in this offense, and he's a guy I definitely could look at to have a big game right there. Maybe you could look at some of the futures and see your MVPs and stuff, because if Ayuk winds up having a big day, like 3 touchdowns or something like that, you never know. You might get some really good odds, maybe 25, 28 to 1 on a guy like that right there for MVP. So just check that out, because Brandon Ayuk is a guy that could show up and have a big-time day on a big-time stage.
And for the Chiefs, I mean, I know that there's a lot more players just on their offense than Kelsey and Mahomes, but I do think Kelsey is, I think he's due in the Super Bowl on the biggest stage. I think he's going to have himself a game as well.
Man, he looks like Travis Kelsey of old. He'd had that coming in before the Bills game. He had 8 straight games without a touchdown catch. Got to be the longest streak of his career right there. They had 2 against the Bills, had another big one yesterday, the first touchdown of the game right there to really set the tone. So, I mean, you can't never count that guy out. But I think for the Chiefs to really have a chance in this one, you're going to have to see kind of like you did yesterday. You're going to have to see some of these unsung heroes, the MVSs, the Noah Grays, the Justin Watsons of the world, maybe even a Kadarius Toney, who was a big part of that win last year. I know he set out yesterday, and a lot of people want to say that helps the Chiefs with that guy's on the sideline. He's had 2 tip passes for interceptions this year.
It looks like it has helped the Chiefs with him sitting out.
It does, but everybody, it's funny. It's such a "what have you done for me lately" society we live in. People forget that Kadarius Toney was a big part of that win last year, catching a touchdown pass, having a 65-yard punt return in that thing to set up another touchdown.
Yeah.
So he was a big key part of this offense and winning that Super Bowl last year. So I think it's going to come down to one of those guys right there that we haven't really looked for in big spots this year to make a play when it matters most for the Chiefs to have a chance to pull this out.
Yeah, Toney, I mean, when he's on, but when he's bad, he's bad. And I don't know if you saw it yesterday. He took to his Instagram live stream yesterday, and he was calling out the Chiefs while he was smoking a blunt or smoking a joint or something like that while he was on Instagram live, just completely talking shit on the Chiefs, how he's not injured, how the Chiefs are lying about him being injured. Do you think the Chiefs risk dressing him up for the Super Bowl?
I actually was reading that article a little bit before we came on here. And, that seems like a kind of weird deal there. You have to be very accurate with these injury reports due to all the betting and stuff that goes on in the world.
Oh, yeah.
They need you to they're pretty strict on those things these days.
Well, especially since the NFL, they're partnered with DraftKings.
And Arthur Smith got fined back earlier this season when we had that game where Bijan, nobody said anything was wrong with Bijan. He had like 3 carries in the game or something. Nobody benched him on their fantasy teams and all that. And he wound up getting fined $25,000. The Falcons got fined $50,000. But they take that stuff pretty seriously. And Andy Reid's saying no, he's been on the injury report and stuff, but he's coming out doing whatever. I haven't seen the video, but sitting there ranting and raving, saying it's a hip and an ankle injury they got him listed at. But he's saying, I don't have these injuries. I've been fine. I could have played all this stuff. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird story to me right there. And I'm with you. Do you really want the distractions? Do you even take the guy to Vegas with you?
Right.
They said it'd be a practice on Thursday, but I don't know.
And remember, before Burrow got injured, he walked off the bus with the cast on. Bengals said he was fine. He played, got injured, and he wasn't listed on the injury report at all. And the Bengals got a little bit of heat too for not listing Burrow on the injury report.
Because that's kind of a weird deal there for me, man. And I'm like, I don't know. I know there is that gamesmanship that we talked about with some of these coaches, and you don't want guys to know who's coming into these games right there. But there is a lot that goes into this, and the NFL takes it very seriously when it comes to falsifying injury reports and all that. So I think we got to hear a little bit more about this story. But I'm with you on the level that I don't even know that I want those distractions, man. I think you let him practice in Kansas City, and you set your roster to go to Vegas, and I don't know if that guy's on it, man. I don't know what you have to gain by putting him on it.
I mean, they clearly haven't wanted him on the field the past few games in the playoffs. So he's their Achilles heel. You don't know which version of Tony is going to show up. Is he going to be the guy that can take it to the next level, or is he going to be the guy that literally gives the team the other ball in good opportunities? You don't know which tuning you're going to get.
Yeah, and I think that the chances that it's the wrong Tony is way greater than the chance that you get that Tony that you got last year in the Super Bowl. Because, I mean, and they had him listed for the injury and for personal reasons. Him and his wife, girlfriend, whatever, had just had their baby on Saturday.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's got a lot going on in his life right now. I don't want to throw shade at the guy and sit and say that I don't know what's going on in his personal life. But to me, if I'm the Chiefs, I can't be worried about your personal life right now on that level. I got to be worried about going to win the Super Bowl, and we'll help you work through any problems you're having and offer you all the support we need. But we can't have you out here being a sideshow, causing a circus, and having all the eyes turned on you and creating distractions when we're about to play the biggest game of the year.
Yeah. Yep, fair point. And speaking of Underdog, we were looking at some Underdog. Underdog already has some prop bets listed for the Super Bowl over here. Underdog is good friends with us over on Rumble, with just Rumble in general, and then with the Game On boys, with you and Will from Game On Sports Picks. So Underdog, if you use the code, correct me if I'm wrong, if you use the code RUMBLE when you make your Underdog account, they will match your first deposit up to $100. So you deposit $100, Rumble will deposit $100 into your account, so you get $200 to gamble with.
Yeah, man. Use that promo code Rumble. Take advantage. That's free money. Just lay it on the ground. Go pick it up right there. Use the promo code Rumble. You get up to 100% sign-up bonus, up to $100 on your first deposit right there. So take that free money, man.
Yeah, and they already have their prop bets up. So depending on what state you're in the United States, if your state allows you to gamble on these prop bets, Underdog, not only it's daily fantasy, but it's a lot more than daily fantasy. It's like daily fantasy on steroids. You can bet on the fantasy points, but then they got their player stat prop bets that you can gamble on as well. You can do 2-legger up to a 5-leg parlay for these games, and I'm sure we're going to get some more. These numbers might fluctuate, right? You think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they will fluctuate, and you'll have some more options. Some will come up, some will go away. It's a long time till that game in 2 weeks. So you'll see these. You can look at these each day and get different ones up there. And you got all, this is just football, but you got all sports right there you can do.
Yep.
And like Beardo said, some states, like I'm in Tennessee, and I can't actually do the pick'em. They're called the pick'ems. They have pick'ems. They have pick'em contests.
We
can do all the contests.
The chili peppers, right?
Yeah, the chili peppers and stuff. Some states won't allow you to do those. I'm in one where you can't, but the pick'em contests are still great for all those that you can play them, because you can win up to 20 times your money on these things. Like I said, 2 to 5 picks right there. It's a cool little thing. It's the easiest way to do fantasy sports. You don't have to mess with drafts and trades and waiver wires, all those things. You simply go in here and you make a lineup up to 5 picks. You think Patrick Mahomes is going to have a big game passing the ball, you click higher on him. You think somebody else, say Pacheco's going to have a tough day rushing, you can click lower on him. And you do have to pick from different teams. Now, you can't have one where it's 2 picks and both from the same team. You do have to pick one from each team.
Ayuk anytime TD, cool, you think higher. There you go. You got your chili right there.
Yep. Yeah, and the chili peppers, the little ones like that, it's only going to allow you to pick higher, but it makes it where you can win instead of 20 times. If you get all your picks correct and your chili pepper, you can win up to 40 times your money in those spots right there. So, yeah, it's the easiest way to do fantasy sports, man. Go check them out. Give them a look. Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code Rumble and get your sign-up bonus.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Hey, well, it's been a good time chatting NFL football with you. The games yesterday and a little preview, a way too early preview for the Super Bowl. We got 2 weeks left. I'm sure a lot of these opinions, odds, and lines might change, but yeah, man, it was a good time chatting with you. Where can they find you, Cricket?
Man, you come check me out for the greatest value in sports handicapping over at sportspicks.locals.com. We have a promo going on for a couple more days now through the end of the month. Use the promo code GAMEON. You can get up to 40% off of your annual subscription over a $200 value. We have the great Robert Barnes that makes the official picks. It's a good community, man. Come over there, interact with us. Check us out, sportspicks.locals.com, where we turn the odds in your favor. And I'm also on Twitter, man. I'm all over Twitter. You can find me at Cricket1414 on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it these days.
There you go. There you go. All right, guys. Hey, let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below about yesterday's games and this way too early preview predictions for the Super Bowl. But if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. Share with a friend who you think would enjoy it. Subscribe to this channel if you're new, and we'll talk to you guys soon.